O diretor Martin Scorsese foi buscar inspiração no cinema mudo para fazer um dos seus mais belos filmes. Ele se chama A Invenção de Hugo CABRET e já está disponível nas locadoras. Vamos dar uma olhadinha nos bastidores desse filme que é uma viagem.
What is that? It's an automaton.
Why would my key fit into your father's machine?
It was one of those experiences. I sat down and read the thing completely, straight through. There was an immediate connection to the story, the boy's loneliness, his association with the cinema, the association with the machinery of creativity.
When I found out that Martin Scorsese was interested in making it into a movie, immediately I was like, oh, of course, it has to be Martin Scorsese.
It's the eternal myth of the lost man, guided back into life by the hands of a child. That is an absolutely classic piece of mythology.
I have a young daughter who will be 12 soon.
He is the youngest daughter, Francesca. She hasn't been able to see his films. So he was like, I'm gonna make a film that my daughter can actually watch, you know?
Reading to children, introducing them to music of different kinds, films, ballet. It's like rediscovering all of these wonderful art forms again, but through the eyes of children.
Marty had called me one day and said, I want you to read this book. And I said, okay. And he said, it's a kid's book. I was like, oh, Marty, I don't know. I'm not a kid's writer per se. He said, just read the book, read the book. So this book shows up in my mailbox, and, you know, Brian Selznick book is like, it's like a brick. It's this huge book. And I was thinking, you know, what did Marty send me? And I started reading it. And within 5 pages, I knew why he loved it, and I knew I had to do it.
I was so impressed by the screenplay. I think everybody was, because it was true to the book. I could actually see it, I could visualize it. It was very vivid, and it was a very, very moving story.
Everything really revolves around HUGO, of course. And so Ellen Lewis, who cast the film, went to England. She checked many of the acting schools, etc. And she brought about 3 boys back here. Asa looked right when he walked in, and then he read 2 of the scenes, and I was convinced.
I knew who he was, but I hadn't seen any of his films because most of them are 18s. And my mum told me that he's the best director ever. And so I slowly became to realise how big this actually was. And he is the best director.
The casting is quite extraordinary in this film, and absolutely dead right. But you would expect that from a director like Martin Scorsese.
John Logan, in the script, was able to create a little world of the train station. We tried to do these vignettes with a very light touch. When we shot them, it was almost like shooting a silent film. It wasn't even important to hear the dialogue, it was just to see them and to have these little running stories.
Once I realized we were going to be centered in London and be able to employ the great sort of variety of stage actors that exist in London, it became doubly exciting.
Monsieur Freak, Richard Griffiths, at the news kiosk, Madame Amélie, Frances de la Tour has her cafe, which has music in it. Happens to be that Django Reinhardt is in the band, if you noticed. And also, if you look closely, there's James Joyce and Salvador Dali outside at the table when the boy's being chased. And then there's Lisette, Emily Mortimer, taking care of the flower shop.
Oh.
And of course, Monsieur Labisse, who runs the bookstore, played by the great Christopher Lee.
Isabelle.
May I present to you Monsieur Hugo Cabret?
I always felt that my career would not be absolutely complete unless I did a film with Martin Scorsese.
We see in 3D, we see in space, most of us do. Space is part of our lives. It means something. I think for the individual person who has a vision of telling a story through images, how that person uses space, that extra element, that extra dimension, to tell a story is very, very important.
When somebody is, incredible as Marty is, the 3D is not a gimmick in the telling of the movie. It's part of the fabric of the storytelling.
Shooting in 3D is far from easy because of the technical processes involved.
Each shot was like rediscovering the quality of the image, the movement, what movement does to the 3D and what 3D does to the movement. You see, it all changes. What I discovered working with the 3D was with the right performances and the right moves, it enhances the actor. It's almost as if it's a mixture of theater and film.
Monsieur Claude, was that you? Are you drunk?
We kind of decided that if Keaton and Chaplin were around today, they'd try and do their routines in 3D, because what it provides is an extra depth to the joke.
And action!
And so somebody tripping up and smashing their leg through a double bass might be slightly funnier in 3D.
Basically, you can turn the 3D up and you can turn the 3D down. So in scenes where they want like the dog to be in your face and like drooling on your face, they turn it up really, high. But when you're doing like a crying scene, they turn it up just enough to where it looks like your orchestra seats at a play, where you can see the definition in the actor's face. It's so clear. But with the 3D, it just adds this other element that you're so woven into the blanket of the film.
Every shot we did was really learning all over again, constantly, because of the element of depth and because of the nature of the sets, the train station, the Méliès studio. All of these things together create a little microcosm of a child's world.
Where do you live? There.
This is the train station, the Paris, the Gare de Montparnasse. This is spread out into 3 different stages because otherwise we don't have enough room.
I've never had an experience walking into a set that awe-inspiring in terms of the detail and the scope and the grandeur of it. I think Dante's work is like an old world craftsman.
The clocks, I mean, talking about taking them to another level, we had a huge clock on one set, and I walked in and I couldn't believe the size of this thing.
And all these extraordinary gears and wheels and flywheels and this sort of thing, all moving, which are based on the real clocks.
And it's the one that Hugo's hanging from. They're not CGI'd, it was all built.
The way Marty and I always talked about it is we wanted the machines in the movie to be magical. We wanted to look at the gears and the levers and the springs and the coils as being something magnificent, as being something so unique and rare. And when you see the way Bob Richardson shot those things, you realize they do look magical.
Film is magic. Every great director is a magician. Every great actor or actress is a magician.
Sometimes I try to explain to children around me, I said, no, we're just playing. We're doing exactly what you do. We make up a game, and then we try to put it on film or digital or whatever. But we're all playing together. It was an enormous undertaking, but it was like a celebration for all of us.
A invenção de Hugo Cabret ganhou 5 prêmios Oscar, todos na área técnica. E o Cine Mundi de hoje fica por aqui. Semana que vem tem mais, sempre com muitas novidades sobre esse delicioso mundo do cinema. Até lá!